The music inside the apartment sounded less like an engagement party and more like a spaceship crashing into a nightclub. Alien bass vibrations rattled the walls hard enough to shake decorative glasses off shelves while drunk relatives screamed over each other in 3 different languages. Somebody in the kitchen was apparently grilling imported moon shrimp with a flamethrower because every few seconds blue fire flashed through the hallway followed by applause. Elias stood outside his own apartment door holding a paper bag containing cold noodles and energy drinks, staring at the noise leaking into the corridor. He checked the apartment number twice. Still his place. Unfortunately. He pushed the door open slowly and immediately got hit in the face by a floating holographic banner that read, "Congratulations, Marcus and Tifa!" The hologram exploded into animated hearts before smacking him directly in the forehead. Nobody noticed. That honestly hurt more emotionally than physically. Inside, the apartment looked completely transformed. Elias barely recognized the living room he spent 6 years paying for. Expensive decorations hung from the ceiling. Alien champagne towers glowed neon pink. A hired drone floated around recording candid family moments, while Marcus posed like he was some celebrity billionaire instead of a 30-year-old man who still borrowed money for hair products. Marcus stood near the center of the room wearing a white designer suit tight enough to cut circulation to his brain, which, honestly, explained a lot. The moment he spotted Elias, he lifted both arms dramatically. "There he is!" Marcus shouted. "My big brother finally decided to join civilization." A few relatives clapped lazily. Elias blinked slowly. "I was at work." Marcus grinned. "Right. Numbers and spreadsheets. The sexiest career alive." A nearby ant snorted wine through her nose laughing. Elias quietly removed his shoes while staring at the crowd currently destroying the apartment he legally owned. Someone had placed greasy appetizers directly on his gaming console. An elderly alien uncle was asleep on the couch wearing Elias's blanket like a royal cape. 2 strangers were making out dangerously close to his indoor plant collection. One of them fell into a lamp. Nobody cared. His mother suddenly appeared beside him carrying a tray of glowing drinks. "Oh good, you're home," she said casually. "Go help the caterers in the kitchen. They're behind schedule." Elias stared at her. "I live here." Yes, we know," she replied dismissively. "But your brother is entertaining guests." Of course he was. Marcus had spent his entire life entertaining guests, while Elias spent his entire life paying bills. Even as kids, Marcus could crash a family vehicle and somehow get hugged afterward for being under pressure. Elias once forgot to buy almond milk and got lectured for an hour about responsibility. Now Marcus stood in the middle of Elias's apartment accepting congratulations for an engagement ring purchased almost entirely using money borrowed from their parents. Money their parents somehow never had whenever Elias needed help. Funny how that worked. Elias walked toward the kitchen only to stop dead in his tracks. His office desk was gone. In its place stood a giant decorative eye sculpture shaped like 2 intertwined hearts. He looked around slowly. "Where's my desk?" "Oh," his father said proudly while approaching with a drink in hand. "We moved some of your things into storage." "You what?" "We needed room for the celebration." Elias blinked twice. Storage. Inside his own apartment. A drunk cousin stumbled past carrying one of Elias's expensive kitchen chairs toward the balcony. "Careful with that," Elias warned automatically. The cousin squinted at him. "Relax, Marcus said this place is basically his now anyway." Silence. Tiny dangerous silence. Elias slowly turned toward his brother. Marcus didn't look embarrassed. If anything, he looked amused. That was when Elias noticed the giant holographic screen hanging above the dining area. A slideshow played across it. Photos of Marcus and his fiancée. Then photos of the apartment. Then text appeared. "The perfect home for the perfect couple." Elias felt his stomach drop. No. No way. His mother clinked a spoon against her glass dramatically. "Everyone," she announced loudly. "Gather around. We have exciting news." The crowd cheered immediately. Marcus wrapped one arm around his fiancée Tifa, who already looked emotionally married to his bank account. Elias stayed near the kitchen doorway, feeling something cold settle into his chest. His father raised his drink proudly. As you all know, Marcus and Tifa are beginning a beautiful future together. Applause erupted. Someone activated romantic music. A drone released flower petals from the ceiling for absolutely no reason. His father smiled wider. And because family supports family, we decided to give the newly engaged couple this apartment as our engagement gift. The room exploded with cheers. Elias heard somebody whistle. His aunt cried instantly. A drunk uncle started clapping too early before realizing the speech wasn't finished yet. Meanwhile, Elias simply stood there holding cold noodles like a hostage in his own home. Marcus kissed Tifa dramatically while people recorded videos. His mother looked directly at Elias. You're single anyway, she said. What do you need all this space for? The room laughed. Actually laughed. For a moment, Elias genuinely wondered if he was having some kind of stress hallucination caused by counting spreadsheets. Then Marcus walked over smiling. You've got 2 days to move your stuff, he whispered casually. Tifa already ordered new furniture. Elias stared at him. You're joking. Marcus shrugged. Come on, don't make this awkward in front of everyone. Awkward. Right. Not the public theft part. The awkward part was apparently Elias existing nearby. His father approached with that fake calm expression parents use before emotionally manipulating someone. Son, family sacrifice for each other. Elias laughed once in disbelief. I paid for this apartment. Yes, his mother replied immediately. But your brother needs it more. I worked 6 years for this place. And Marcus is starting a family. He doesn't even have a job. He's figuring things out. Elias looked around the room. At strangers drinking from glasses he bought. At relatives dancing on floors he paid for. At his younger brother accepting praise for a life built entirely using someone else's money. Nobody thanked him. Nobody even looked guilty. The apartment AI suddenly activated from the ceiling speakers. Congratulations, Elias and Marcus, on your engagement. The room went silent. Marcus frowned. Why does it keep saying his name? The AI continued cheerfully. Reminder, primary homeowner Elias Vane has not approved ownership transfer. Another silence. A dangerous one. Marcus forced an awkward laugh. Tech glitch. Elias looked up slowly at the ceiling speakers. Then he smiled. Not angry. Not emotional. Just calm. Which honestly scared people more. Because in that exact moment Elias realized something important. If they wanted the apartment that badly, they could survive his farewell weekend first. The next morning Marcus woke up screaming. Not terrified screaming. Offended screaming. The kind of scream produced by a man who believed the universe personally existed to flatter him. Elias heard it clearly from the kitchen while calmly drinking coffee. Why does the toilet know my name? A second later the apartment speakers answered cheerfully. Good morning, unemployed King Marcus. Hydration level dangerously low. Confidence level medically concerning. A crashing sound echoed through the hallway. Elias took another sip of coffee. Peaceful. Beautiful. Across the hall, somebody laughed loud enough to shake the corridor walls. That was Lyra. Elias glanced toward the open apartment doorway just as she leaned casually against the frame holding a glowing purple drink. Her silver hair spilled over one shoulder, while her violet eyes practically glowed with amusement. You installed personality mods into the bathroom AI? She asked. Elias shrugged calmly. Stress relief. Lyra grinned slowly. That grin should have been illegal in at least 7 galaxies. You're much more dangerous than you pretend to be, accountant. Inside the apartment, Marcus continued yelling. Mom! The mirror just called me financially unstable. Right on cue, the smart mirror shouted from the bathroom. Reminder, motivational quote of the day. Rich energy without actual income is called delusion. Lyra nearly choked laughing. Elias couldn't help smiling slightly. Last night after the engagement disaster, he'd stayed awake reprogramming nearly every smart device in the apartment. Technically it was all legal. Because technically, it was still his apartment. Funny how ownership worked. Marcus stormed into the kitchen wearing silk pajamas and fury. "You think this is funny? The mirror?" Elias asked innocently. "Honestly, yes." Their mother entered immediately afterward looking exhausted already. "Elias, fix the system." "Why?" "Because guests are arriving tonight." "Sounds stressful." Marcus pointed aggressively. "You have until tomorrow night to get out." Elias nodded casually. "And you have until tomorrow night to survive." Marcus frowned. "What does that mean?" Elias smiled into his coffee. "Nothing." That answer somehow made Marcus even angrier. Lyra wandered inside without invitation like she owned the building. To be fair, nobody stopped her. Mostly because every man within eyesight temporarily forgot language when she entered rooms. She looked Marcus up and down once. "Oh, you're the brother." Marcus instantly switched personalities. The man transformed faster than cheap software updates. Suddenly he smiled confidently, puffed out his chest, and tried leaning against the counter in what he probably believed was a seductive pose. "I don't think we've met." Lyra stared at him. Then at Elias. Then back at Marcus. "I see why your parents chose the wrong son," she said flatly. Elias nearly inhaled coffee into his lungs. Marcus blinked. "What?" Lyra ignored him completely, and walked beside Elias instead. "You still planning psychological warfare?" "I upgraded to emotional warfare around 3 this morning." Her eyes sparkled immediately. "Oh, I like you." Marcus looked personally insulted by that sentence. Honestly, that improved Elias's mood more than caffeine. By evening the apartment looked even more ridiculous than the engagement party. Marcus and Tifa were hosting another celebration dinner for her wealthy relatives. Apparently the plan was to convince everyone Marcus was successful enough to deserve marrying into money. Which was ambitious considering he once got his car repossessed during a motivational live stream. Guests began arriving around sunset. Elegant alien relatives entered carrying expensive gifts while Marcus pretended he belonged among them. Tifa floated beside him showing off the apartment proudly like she personally built it. Meanwhile Elias sat calmly on the balcony eating noodles. Lyra joined him wearing black evening clothes sharp enough to kill weak men on sight. "You're not even hiding your revenge anymore," she said. "No point. You know humans usually scream during family betrayal." "I work in accounting," Elias replied. "My soul died years ago." Lyra laughed harder than she should have. Inside the apartment, chaos began beautifully. The first victim was Tifa's mother. The moment she entered the guest bathroom, the toilet announced loudly, "Scanning user. Warning, excessive cosmetic surgery detected." The entire dining room went silent. Then the toilet added, "Would you like emotional support music?" Tifa's mother screamed. Marcus sprinted toward the bathroom while guests struggled not to laugh. 3 seconds later the smart shower activated automatically and began playing romantic saxophone music. Lyra nearly fell against Elias laughing. "Oh, this is evil. It gets worse." Right on schedule the kitchen refrigerator beeped loudly. Its digital screen displayed. "Daily reminder, Marcus currently owes 14,322 credits in unpaid personal loans." Marcus lunged toward the fridge in panic. Too late. Everyone saw it. A drunk uncle snorted wine laughing while pretending to cough. Tifa whispered furiously, "You told me your debts were handled." "They are handled." The fridge beeped again. "Correction, debts are avoiding collection through technical loopholes." Elias calmly kept eating noodles. Across the room, his father glared at him with growing suspicion. "You did this." Elias tilted his head. "Did what?" Before his father could answer, every light inside the apartment suddenly switched into nightclub mode. Red lights flashed. Music exploded from hidden speakers. Then the apartment AI announced, Welcome to Marcus Vane's Financial Recovery Fundraiser. Guests burst into shocked laughter. Marcus looked seconds away from cardiac arrest. And then the final masterpiece activated. The giant living room hollow screen flickered once before displaying old teenage recordings of Marcus singing shirtless into a hairbrush while crying after a breakup. "Oh no," Elias whispered dramatically. "Not the heartbreak compilation." Marcus screamed loud enough to scare nearby pets. Guests howled laughing. Even Tifa covered her mouth trying not to smile. Marcus lunged for the control panel only for the apartment AI to respond. "Access denied. Primary homeowner authorization required." Silence. Heavy silence. Every eye slowly turned toward Elias sitting peacefully beside Lyra on the balcony. And for the first time all weekend, people finally started realizing who actually owned the apartment. Marcus spent the next morning pretending everything was normal. Which was impressive considering half the apartment building had already seen the heartbreak karaoke footage. The hallway went completely silent whenever he walked past now. Not because people respected him. Because they were trying not to laugh directly into his face. Unfortunately for Marcus, the building residents were terrible actors. One elderly alien neighbor actually burst into tears laughing the moment Marcus entered the elevator. Another asked if his next performance would include choreography. Marcus looked like a man one inconvenience away from committing tax fraud. Elias, meanwhile, slept peacefully for the first time in months. There was something deeply therapeutic about watching entitled people experience consequences. He stood on the rooftop terrace later that night staring over the neon skyline of the city. Endless traffic lanes floated between skyscrapers while glowing alien advertisements flickered across the clouds overhead. The wind carried distant music through the night air. Behind him, the rooftop doors slid open softly. Lyra stepped outside holding 2 glasses filled with glowing blue liquid. "You disappeared," she said. "I needed silence." She handed him one of the drinks. "That's illegal in 3 systems." "Good. That's the healthiest response you've given all week." Elias smirked slightly before taking a sip. The drink burned like gasoline mixed with bad decisions. He immediately coughed. Lyra laughed. "You humans always think alien alcohol is exaggerated. I think my organs just filed complaints." "Relax. Worst case scenario, you hallucinate colors for an hour. That's somehow not comforting." She leaned against the railing beside him. For a moment neither spoke. The city glowed beneath them. Peaceful. Unlike the disaster currently happening downstairs. Marcus and Tifa had spent the entire day fighting. Loudly. Apparently discovering your fiancé was secretly broke created relationship tension. Who could have predicted that? Lyra glanced sideways at Elias. "You know what confuses me? Probably several things. You let people treat you like background furniture for years." Elias shrugged. "Easier than fighting." "No," she replied quietly. "Easier than believing you deserve better." That hit harder than expected. Elias stared down at the city lights. "When you're the responsible one," he said slowly, "people stop seeing you as a person. You become a solution. A wallet. A backup plan." Lyra watched him carefully. "My species would challenge family members to ritual combat for less disrespect." "That sounds healthier." "It is." He laughed softly. Then silence settled again. Not awkward silence. Comfortable silence. The kind Elias wasn't used to sharing with anyone. Lyra moved slightly closer beside him. "You know," she said casually, "Marcus spent 20 minutes flirting with me downstairs." Elias nearly choked on the drink again. "What?" "He asked if I wanted to see his engagement dance routine privately." "Oh God." "He also described himself as an alpha entrepreneur." Elias physically recoiled. "That phrase alone should qualify as a medical condition." Lyra laughed hard enough to lean against his shoulder briefly before realizing it. Neither moved away immediately. The air shifted slightly between them. Dangerous. Warm. Interesting. Lyra looked up at him slowly. "You're very different from your brother." Low bar. No, she said softly. I mean different. For one reckless second, Elias almost kissed her. Then screaming exploded from downstairs. Both of them froze. Lyra sighed dramatically. Your family truly has supernatural timing. They returned downstairs to absolute chaos. Marcus had decided hosting another classy recovery dinner would somehow repair his collapsing engagement. Instead, it looked like a hostage negotiation with appetizers. Tifa sat stiffly at the dining table beside her furious parents. Marcus sweated through another expensive suit, while Elias's parents desperately pretended nothing was wrong. The moment Elias entered, Marcus glared murderously. There he is! Elias grabbed a drink casually. You seem tense. Because you humiliated me. No, Elias corrected calmly. You humiliated yourself. I just upgraded the sound system. Marcus slammed both hands onto the table. You think you're funny? Objectively? Yes. Tifa's father suddenly interrupted. Can someone explain who actually owns this apartment? Silence. Beautiful silence. Marcus opened his mouth. The apartment AI answered first. Legal property owner, Elias Vane. Marcus closed his mouth again. Tifa slowly turned toward him. You said your parents bought this place. They basically did. Elias blinked. With what money? Their mother jumped in quickly. Elias, stop embarrassing your brother. Interesting sentence considering he stole my apartment during his engagement party. His father stood up immediately. We are family. And I'm the one who paid the mortgage. Marcus pointed aggressively. You don't even need this place. Elias laughed once in disbelief. I don't need the apartment I worked 6 years for? You're single. And whose fault is that? Elias snapped finally. I spent my 20s paying bills while you played entrepreneur with family money. The room went dead quiet. Marcus looked shocked. Mostly because Elias almost never raised his voice. Lyra stood silently beside him now. Watching. Supporting. That alone irritated Marcus more than the argument itself. You think you're better than me? Marcus spat. No, Elias replied calmly. I think I'm tired of carrying people who contribute nothing. Marcus lunged forward. Not fighting exactly. More like aggressive rich boy panic movement. Before Elias could react, Lyra stepped directly between them. Fast. Protective. Her glowing violet eyes narrowed dangerously. You will lower your voice, she said coldly, before I lower it for you. Marcus immediately backed up. Smartest decision he'd made all year. The room stared in shock. Especially Marcus. Because attractive women usually adored Marcus instantly. Watching one openly choose Elias instead looked like it physically damaged his ego. Tifa noticed too. Oh my God! She muttered slowly. Then she looked around the apartment. At the ownership system. At Elias. At Marcus. And suddenly her entire expression changed. Wait, she said carefully. If this apartment isn't yours. Marcus swallowed. Where exactly were we supposed to live? The silence after Tifa's question felt nuclear. Marcus opened and closed his mouth twice like a malfunctioning aquarium fish. His parents looked equally horrified because, for the first time all weekend, nobody could emotionally manipulate reality fast enough to save them. Tifa slowly stood from the table. You told me your family gifted us this apartment. Marcus pointed wildly toward Elias. They were supposed to. Elias almost admired the confidence required to say something that stupid out loud. Tifa stared at him in disbelief. You proposed to me before securing a place to live? We had a place to live. You mean his place? Marcus turned toward his parents desperately. Say something. His father cleared his throat awkwardly. Technically the apartment was going to stay in the family. The apartment already is in the family. Elias interrupted calmly. The problem is you tried gifting someone else's property like discount holiday candy. Lyra snorted into her drink. Tifa's mother looked seconds away from fainting. Her father looked seconds away from homicide. Meanwhile, the apartment AI suddenly spoke from the ceiling. Reminder: unauthorized emotional breakdown detected in dining area. Nobody even reacted anymore. The AI had honestly become the least insane part of the weekend. Marcus stepped toward Elias again, face red with panic. You planned this? Elias blinked slowly. I planned paying my mortgage on time. Everything after that was just entertainment. You ruined my engagement. No, Tifa snapped suddenly. You ruined the engagement. Everybody froze. Marcus looked genuinely stunned. Probably because no woman had ever held him accountable before. Tifa folded her arms tightly. You lied about your money, your job, your apartment. What exactly do you own? Marcus hesitated too long. That answer told everyone everything. Her father immediately stood up. We're leaving. Marcus panicked instantly. Wait, don't overreact. Tifa removed her engagement ring so fast it nearly achieved orbital velocity. The entire room gasped. Even the apartment AI seemed emotionally invested now. Alert! It announced dramatically. Relationship status downgraded to catastrophic. Lyra leaned against Elias, whispering, I think I'm in love with your apartment. Elias smiled despite himself. Across the room, Marcus looked like his soul had left his body to avoid embarrassment. Then things somehow became worse. His mother suddenly turned toward Elias with tears forming instantly. Weaponized tears. Olympic-level emotional manipulation tears. How could you do this to your brother? Elias laughed in disbelief. Are you serious? You embarrassed this family. You gave away my home. But he needed it. He needs a therapist and employment. The room went silent again. His father rubbed his forehead tiredly. Elias, enough already? No, Elias said quietly. I've done enough already. That tone changed everything. Because suddenly he wasn't joking anymore. No sarcasm. No humor. Just exhaustion. I paid your bills, he continued. I covered Marcus's debts. I worked overtime for years while you treated me like background furniture. Nobody interrupted him now. You know the funniest part? Elias said softly. I actually believed if I worked hard enough, eventually you'd respect me. His mother looked away immediately. That hurt more than yelling ever could. Marcus scoffed bitterly. Oh, please. You act like some victim. Elias looked at him calmly. I'm not a victim anymore. Then he reached into his pocket and placed a small keycard onto the dining table. His father frowned. What's that? My new apartment. Silence. Marcus blinked. What? I bought a penthouse 3 weeks ago. Everybody froze. Even Lyra looked surprised. You what? Marcus shouted. Elias shrugged lightly. I was planning to move eventually anyway. Closer to work. Better district. Less emotional terrorism. His mother stared at him. You were leaving? Originally I wanted to tell everyone after renovations finished. Marcus looked completely lost now. You already bought another place? Yes. A penthouse? Yes. With what money? Elias stared at him. Mine. That's usually how buying things works. Lyra physically turned away laughing. Marcus looked like a man discovering gravity personally betrayed him. You can't just leave us. That sentence hit the room beautifully. Not, you can't leave me. Not, I'm sorry. Just panic about losing the family wallet. Elias suddenly understood something horrifying. They genuinely never expected him to stop sacrificing for them. Not once. The apartment AI beeped pleasantly. Farewell protocol ready for activation. Elias smiled slowly. Marcus frowned nervously. What farewell protocol? Glad you asked? Elias pressed one button on his wrist console. Instantly every sprinkler in the apartment activated. Except instead of water. Glitter exploded from the ceiling. Massive amounts of glitter. Golden glitter. Pink glitter. Somehow glowing alien glitter. The room erupted into chaos. Tifa screamed. Marcus slipped immediately. His father inhaled glitter and started coughing violently. Then the speakers activated. The AI began reading archived family arguments aloud in a calm professional voice. Playing recording, Marcus requesting grocery money at age 28. Stop the system, Marcus yelled. Playing recording, mother stating Elias is easier to manipulate because he avoids conflict. Absolute silence. Then horror. His mother turned pale instantly. Lyra whispered, "Oh, that one had emotional damage." The refrigerator suddenly locked itself. Access denied, the AI announced. Compliment primary homeowner to continue. Nobody moved. Compliment required. Marcus groaned angrily. Fine. Elias is financially responsible. Insincere tone detected. The building residents had gathered outside the open apartment door, now openly recording everything. Someone in the hallway yelled, "Play the singing video again." The crowd applauded immediately. Marcus looked ready to jump off the balcony. Meanwhile, Elias calmly picked up his final moving box near the couch. That contrast made everything funnier. Pure chaos behind him. Complete peace in front of him. Lyra walked over quietly. "You really planned all this?" "Not the glitter," Elias admitted. "That was honestly impulsive. I respect it deeply." She reached down, helping him lift the final box. Their hands brushed briefly. Warm. Comfortable. Real. Together they walked toward the apartment entrance while screaming continued behind them. His father called after him desperately. "Elias, wait." He stopped once. Not because he felt guilty. Because he wanted closure. His father looked smaller suddenly. Older. "We're still family." Elias thought about that for a long moment. Then nodded once. "Maybe someday you'll learn how to treat family properly." And with that, he left. The hallway residents actually applauded as he walked away. One elderly alien woman handed him a drink like he just won a championship. By the time they reached the rooftop parking deck, Elias finally exhaled fully. Years of pressure leaving his body all at once. The city stretched endlessly beneath the night sky, glowing with neon and starships. Lyra leaned casually against his transport vehicle. "So," she said softly, "about this penthouse." Elias smirked slightly. "You asking for the address or an invitation?" "Depends. Does it come with emotionally abusive relatives?" "Only one sarcastic accountant." "Acceptable." He laughed quietly. Then she stepped closer. Close enough for the city lights to reflect in her violet eyes. "You know," she murmured, "most human men get intimidated by strong alien women. Good thing I survived accountants and my family." That finally made her kiss him. Slow. Warm. Perfectly timed. Behind them, Elias's communicator suddenly rang. "Marcus." Again. The voicemail activated automatically through the speakers. "Elias." The apartment AI locked us inside. Elias calmly muted the communicator mid-kiss. Far below, the city glowed endlessly while laughter echoed behind them. And somewhere inside that disaster-filled apartment, the smart toilet greeted Marcus one final time. "Good evening, unemployed king."